Lady thought she was entitled to my seat on the plane because she had a baby with her. Flight attendant shut her down. Hey everyone, welcome back to Lives on Reddit. Don't forget to subscribe to be a for lifer. This happened years ago, but I thought you all would get a kick out of it. My sister and I were flying from Europe to the US. We got in line early so we could request bulkhead seating and have some extra legroom for the long flight. It worked as planned and we boarded and took our seats. Shortly after we took off, the guy across the aisle from us offered the lady behind him his seat because she had a baby with her. Nice guy. No way in heck am I making my long flight less comfortable just to make someone else's more comfortable because they have a kid. This is when Crazy Lady appeared. I had a feeling, because of how she was hustling over to us, practically shoving someone out the way, that she saw the man give up his seat and was coming to ask us to do the same. I quickly pretended to be asleep, thinking no one would have the audacity to wake someone up to ask them to move seats. Well, this lady did. She woke me up and practically demanded that I trade seats with her. She really thought that she deserved the better seat because she had a baby with her. We politely declined several times, but she would not let it go. But she has a baby and she's sitting in front, gesturing to the other baby lady. Okay, not my problem. She was making a full-blown scene at this point and trying to bully us out of our seats. A flight attendant walked over to see what all the commotion was about. She listened to the lady whine for long enough to understand the situation. She said, "Ma'am, these are their seats. They clearly do not want to trade seats with you. Please go sit down." The lady continued to yell and argue, so the flight attendant shut it down. "Ma'am, if you do not sit down in your seat right now, the pilot is going to turn the plane around, land in Scotland, and you will be escorted off." Baby lady shut the frick up and sat down. Flight attendant of the year. Where does this entitlement come from? Good on you for not giving up your seat. Sometimes I think stuff like this is discussed in their Mombi groups as profound achievements. Mombi number 1. Hey fellow Karens, guess what? I cut in line at Disney today and used my crying toddler as an excuse. Mombi 2. That's nothing. I made someone give up their comfortable seat on the 7-hour flight for me that they paid for. This is slightly off topic, but I was in Aldi recently and they do not have an express checkout lane. I was in front of a man who had exactly the same amount of goods that I did, about 10 in total, and the lady behind us in the queue asked me to allow the man to go first because he was busy. I turned to her and said, "My mother's in the hospital and I'm going there from here, so I'm in a bit of a hurry." It wasn't true, but I was so ticked off that she assumed a man would be busier than me. Years ago in San Francisco airport, this woman asked if she could cut in front of me in the security line because she was in a hurry. I said, "This is an airport. Everyone is in a hurry." That shut her up. I got a breeder marched to the front of the check-in queue, wanting to board first because she had a sprog attached to her chest. The lady on the gate was like, "I'm sorry, but this flight is first come, first serve. If you wanted to board earlier, you should have arrived earlier." I was preparing to get off a plane once and a guy behind me asked if he can squeeze ahead of me because he had a connecting flight. I said, "This is Atlanta. We all have a connecting flight." And that shut him up. Your kid, your problem, is the only thing parents don't want to acknowledge. Nobody should go out of their way to make you comfortable. I mean, do parents go out of their way to make diners comfortable by keeping their kid at home? Nope. So you aren't entitled to anything. I think in their minds, it's like, I have to sacrifice everything and work my behind off for this kid. They can make some sacrifices too. The problem with that logic is you chose that life, and it is no one's problem but yours. About 10 years ago, I was on a red-eye flight from Chicago to Dublin when this lady boarded with her toddler and sat in the middle seat about 7 rows up from me. I was behind and in the right side of the plane by the window. I'm sure you know where this is going, right? Red-eye flight, we all want to sleep. But no, this little brat single-handedly kept everyone up the entire 8-hour flight, screaming like a banshee. I was so exhausted I wanted to personally shut that kid up. Never have I hated children more than in that flight. I didn't pay $800 so I could listen to a kid literally scream at the top of her lungs for 8 hours. And she did too. Screamed the entire way full out, except the last 20 minutes till landing. The flight attendants tried to quiet her, distract her, but to no avail. Nothing worked. I get that ears pop, etc., but this kid was just being a turd. It was driving me crazy and I wasn't even sitting that close. Had I been closer, I think I would have lost it. She was so loud that even my headphones couldn't drown her out. I've never heard a kid scream and cry quite like that. It was all I could do not to yell back. SMH. Ironically, on my way back home, a woman sat in front of me with another toddler. She must have saw the worried look on my face and quickly said, "Don't worry, he's good." My doctor also gave him something to knock him out. I apologized for the face I must have been making and quickly explained the flight over. She shook her head and said, "There's no reason for that. All you have to do is ask your doctor for something to take the edge off." And she was really nice and her child was a good baby. We smiled at each other through the gap in the seat, and he pretty much slept the whole way. That doctor deserves an award. This is how you parent. That second mom was knowledgeable and prepared, and she was respectful and valued everyone's well-being, even her own baby. Babies and young children hate airplanes because air pops are painful. Giving the baby medicine to help with that is a win-win for everyone. About 30 years ago, back towards the end of the USSR days, I was flying on Aeroflot from Moscow to the Siberian city of Irkutsk and managed to snag a bulkhead seat. A tiny bit of comfort on what was then said to be the world's worst airline. In other words, almost as bad as the US carriers are today. A lady with a baby came and sat in the empty seat next to me. And next thing I knew, a stewardess marched over and told me to go sit somewhere else. The tiny bit of Russian I knew gave me the impression that she had decided the mother would be better off with a woman next to her who could help with the baby. Won't even go into the sexist, natalist assumptions behind that. I just knew this 6'2" Yank wasn't about to give up his legroom for the long flight. So I just pulled the "Я не говорю по-русски" card. I don't speak Russian. And sat there like a lump. Eventually, Comrade Stewardess got the message and gave up the effort, and eastward we flew after bouncing off the runway a couple of times. Those Tu-154 airlines were always exciting to ride in. Plot twist, the young mom was quite nice, the baby pretty quiet, and I did end up holding the kid later on when mom went to the lab. What do you know? A nekulturny foreigner can be helpful after all, as long as nobody screws him out of his seat. One of my biggest dreams in life is to get rich enough to open a bunch of child-free places, child-free airlines, child-free restaurants, shopping, etc. And I want to make it awesome. The best prices, the best food, the smoothest rides, and best pilots. Because there's no kids, we can have fancy things. The good alcohol and art exhibits that I know nobody will smear their greasy toddler fingers on. I want to be rich enough to be able to lose money on these endeavors just to make them heavenly experiences that are oh so cheap. I want to advertise it all and emphasize that it's not just no kids, it's child free. If we come to find out after your reservation that you do have a child, even if it's not in your custody, you're out. And of course, you're on a frick off list for all our other services. Imagine how awesome child-free dating could be if you know that everybody in the room, bar, etc. is actually child-free. Also, every advertisement should seem like a feature from the sub. The ad for the airline, for example, has a plane full of kids and babies screaming and running around, touching some dude's elbows through the gaps and moms demanding seats and things from other people. Then we show in contrast our airline. Pristine, clean, fancy, yet cheap, and most importantly, child-free. Oh man, I just want to get all the Karen moms to be like, but that's not fair. We want the cheap, good airline tickets. And we don't want to hear other people's babies either. And I'll smugly say, exactly. Because right now, it's not freaking fair that everywhere I go, even if I paid a good amount, there's a good chance that my night will be ruined by some screaming infant and their incapable parents. Their logic is, funny enough, something like, grow up, they're kids. I have to deal with this all the time. And yes, you do. And that sucks, but that's what you chose. Don't force the results of your bad decision making on me, frick bag. What's really unfair is that I'm doing what's actually best for the world while receiving no advantage or benefits from institutions because of it. While breeding Karens with more kids than brain cells get put on a pedestal by society. I want to do something for the child-free people of the world. I want to incentivize smart behavior and reward it greatly, which is what society should be doing. Whoa, 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 whoa. Don't leave. Subscribe. Be a for lifer. Ooh, ooh.